One may cite two significant absences from And Just Like That's first season as the reason why the Sex and the City sequel series felt a little off. Samantha Jones and Sex. Let's call it untethered from the mothership. The Samantha issue has been handled as well as the team could under the circumstances, and I am both excited and disappointed by the news that we will only have one brief phone contact with Samantha in person this season. Anyway, Season 2 begins with a huge brash statement that seems to say, "We haven't forgotten about the sex." A montage of all our main females doing the railing and getting railed. Seema and club owner Zed are still hooking up. Carrie and her podcast producer Franklin are still making out in the lift. Charlotte and Harry are keeping things hot. Lisa, Todd, Wexley, and Herbert are still a super hot married couple. And Miranda and Che are cuddled up in an LA hot tub. I'm overjoyed to see that everyone is receiving what they deserve. The only thing I'd like to point out about this whole affair is that there are photos of Naya, who is shown watching an intimate scene on TV out of loneliness after her husband left for a tour at a difficult time in their marriage. She looks so pitiful, but it's also exactly what we're doing right now, watching other people have sex on television. It will take time to determine whether Season 2 will be significantly more pro-sex, or if this montage is merely the show blowing its cover in the first 3 minutes. We can only hope for the first. Since we now know what to anticipate and not expect from And Just Like That, I honestly can't tell if the cringe of Season 1 has worn me out or if this premiere simply signifies that the series has found a little bit of its footing. There is a sense that the show is having a little bit more fun this time around even while Carrie is still dealing with her sadness, which feels true to life. I'm talking about a nude Miranda trying to escape a sensory deprivation tank while yelling in reference to her new LA view on life. It has an authentic Miranda Hobbs vibe. The East Coast gang getting ready for the Met Gala, to which they were granted invitations courtesy to LTO and her enormous wealth. The main set piece of the episode features both nostalgic fashion moments. Carrie teams Smoke's cape with her iconic Vivienne Westwood wedding dress and veil, and fashion emergencies. Carrie hires Jackie's up-and-coming designer wife, Smoke, to design her dress, but everything goes wrong hours before the event. There are also some truly absurd fashion moments, such as Charlotte's cotton candy by Fair Lady Burlesque Hybrid and LT2's crazy headpiece. In this episode, Charlotte's entire plot can be summed up as Harry mistakenly thinks he's Charlotte's plus one, so she has to uninvite Anthony. But then Harry finds out normals don't walk the stairs and no one at work will know he went, so he ditches and Charlotte re-invites Anthony. She doesn't have much to do. Lisa forgets to confirm their ride, and they have to walk the 10 blocks to the museum because she is so stressed out from trying to make her next big documentary, while also doing everything for her family. Nicole Parker and Chris Jackson can be seen crossing the street in a fantastic photo as a result. Seema makes the bizarre decision to forego her spot as Carrie's plus one in order to have lunch with Zed, his son, and his ex-wife, who are only in town for one day. However, after learning that Zed still resides in the same home as his ex, Seema decides she has no time for that mess and takes off to make it to the Met just in time. Carrie does slightly better when Franklin tries to turn their once-weekly encounter into something more. She eventually gets the courage to be upfront and tell him that she is only ready for exit-out-of-grief intercourse. That at least demonstrates some character growth and forward motion. The same is true for Naya, who, after going into a tailspin over Andrew Rashad's abandonment, takes herself out to dinner and is hit on. She seemed incredibly interested. Naya informs Toussaint that she is married. She puts on some intimate apparel at home while inebriated in the hopes of video chatting with Andrew Rashad, but instead discovers that he is writing songs in his hotel room with a backup vocalist named Heidi. In a sense, Naya ends the conversation there. Che Passet is the title of their major network pilot about the Mexican-Irish non-binary TV version of themselves. If I'm being charitable, I suppose a title so corny might simply be the first indication that Che's dream isn't coming true as they had anticipated. That does seem to be the direction we're going. The central theme of the Miranda-Che plot in this episode is about the two of them growing more vulnerable of one another. And I don't just mean Miranda attempting to put on a complicated strap-on, but I suppose I don't mean that either. Miranda seems a little less hysterical than she was during the previous season as she embraces her major impulsive move to Los Angeles for the summer. She does, however, start to become anxious when Che starts behaving oddly around her. When Miranda tries to embrace them in front of others, they keep pushing her away, and Miranda starts to worry that Che believes their connection is limited to their bedroom and only about making love. But eventually, Che reveals what's actually going on. Che Diaz actually cries. They didn't want Miranda to know how upset they were over such a little matter. It's actually very nice when Miranda tells Che they are the most gorgeous person they have ever seen. Even after they close their set with a joke about taking an Uber from the bedroom to the bathroom, which should, scientifically speaking, eliminate all sexual attraction in perpetuity, Miranda is still really into Che, so that's not nothing. These two insane kids might succeed, who knows? Or perhaps a catastrophe is coming their way and everything will blow up in their faces. Most likely the latter. However, it was great not to be totally perplexed by it. For once, Miranda and Che make the right decisions. Miranda finds out that Che Diaz is married in a major revelation that largely goes nowhere in this episode. Miranda attends a meeting, which comes as a pleasant surprise. Then, without really forgetting Miranda's alcohol abuse from the previous season, she finds a friend who asks her to spend the afternoon helping out at a beach cleanup. In the midst of the gathered seaweed, she manages to lose her phone. After searching through it in vain, she borrows a phone from some friendly surfers and calls Carrie, the only number she knows, in order to acquire Che's number and arrange for a transport as quickly as possible off that beach. Since Miranda was scheduled to join them for dinner with their TB father, Tony Danza, Che feels a little miffed by the entire affair. One can never understand why Che Diaz can't just call an Uber for Miranda. Instead, Lyle, who lives nearby, is sent by Che to assist Miranda. Miranda starts to lose her composure as Lyle reveals that he knows Che because they were married and theoretically still are. In yet another small alteration to Che's dream, Miranda is waiting for them when they get home from their dinner, in which Tony Danza informs them that he and the Danzilians don't think it would be appropriate for him to play a Mexican-American character, and that he wants to change the character to an Italian-American. She has inquiries, but there aren't really enough of them. Although it is absurd to connect not knowing Che's number with not knowing whether or not Che was married, Miranda is understandably concerned about the reason she wrecked her life. She is concerned that she doesn't genuinely know Che. Since they both have a history of laziness and simply never got around to divorcing, according to Che, it shouldn't be a serious problem for their relationship. Miranda acknowledges that. She asks absolutely no follow-up questions regarding this information. Miranda, aren't you a lawyer? Carrie is coping with the drama of having to think of a light-hearted way to discuss vaginal dryness in New York. Meanwhile, you see, I only report the news. I don't make this stuff up. Carrie had two options. She could simply read the copy that was given to her and move on, or she could object and end up having the most boring post-couple chat session ever, since she and Franklin would have to come up with fresh copy for the advertisement. Because she poses a threat to society, Carrie opts for the latter. In the end, it doesn't really matter. Chloe wants us to believe that Carrie's hesitation to record the VAG commercial caused the entire podcast production firm to fail, but it appears that problems existed long before then. They couldn't have given this character like one more note to play. The Sex and the City podcast and Carrie and Franklin were both canceled before they even got off the ground. Franklin responds to Carrie in a very mature way, saying that if she doesn't want a relationship that is more than simply on Thursdays, they should probably break up. It's so cordial. Carrie can acknowledge that she thinks she may have outgrown Sex and the City anyway. She isn't very unhappy about it or too blown up about the conclusion of Sex and the City. Is that a meta-commentary on why doing it just like that, rather than just recreating Sex and the City, was necessary? Probably. Anyway, there wasn't much chemistry between Carrie and Franklin, so it's not a big loss. Charlotte also learns about acceptance of growing out of things and letting go through Lily's new hobby of songwriting, so it's not just Carrie who does. She dyes her hair purple and does everything. Lily is a whole commitment machine. Her parents tell her she must find the money on her own when she requests for an electric keyboard, because she is now a serious songwriter. Lily accomplishes this by offering a variety of her fashionable clothing to The Real Deal, a website similar to The Real Real, but paying in cash. Charlotte breaks down when she learns Lily has sold the adorable pink Chanel outfit she bought for one of Lily's first recitals. She wants to overthrow The Real Deal, or at the very least, get it to return the dress to her. After a Charlotte spiral in the middle of one of The Real Deal sites, Carrie is forced to take her aside in order to prevent her from becoming a meme and uncovering the true nature of this situation. Charlotte quickly acknowledges that this breakdown is more about Lily rejecting everything Charlotte has given her than it is about the channel. She no longer cares about playing the piano in the classical style, and she clumsily discards a clothing that means so much to Charlotte. Eventually, though, Carrie aids Charlotte in realizing that Lily is simply outgrowing some of those things, which is normal, and is not actually Lily abandoning her mother. It's a pleasant occasion that Charlotte, Carrie, and that Pigeon Clutch share with their friends.